We're going to the newest live concert.
Oh man, I heard that band was not. They like broke up in an ugly way.
Oh,
Where I'm trying to remember the lead singer's name. He's got a weird name, I
it
think.
is. Yeah, something like really Scandinavian.
Yeah, but he's Canadian, I think.
Oh dear.
Yeah, maybe not. He might be Californian. It's the same thing, right?
He's from Quebec. I don't know. Yeah. I want to go to the new live concert.
It's like a different band.
Yeah, it's just a different band completely. But what if you went to an old live concert? I guess that's what watching like a video online might be.
Yeah, but it'd be cool if you could. Like, I thought about that. Like, how if I had a time machine, I would use it for trivial things, like telling younger me, like, "Hey, this band's gonna break up in like 2 years, so you got to go."
You should probably, yeah, that's fair.
See them. You got to see them live right now.
But what? Oh, hold on. So now, like, what if you went to this concert that you wouldn't have gone to normally, and like a dude with a gun like blasts you, and it changes history?
Well, okay, so here's what you do, right? When you go back in time and interact with yourself, assuming that we're not operating on is it time cop rules? Is time cops don't reflect you see yourself like the universe just implodes.
Yeah, that's really heavy duty.
It's not that. Which one is it? This time cop, the bad guy goes back and helps himself. Oh, time. Okay, whatever. Well, here's what you do. You tell yourself at any given moment. You say, "Hey, I'm going to tell you to do this thing, but before I do, if I disappear, don't do this thing." Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because then if you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to go to that concert," and all of a sudden future you is just gone, then
don't go to the concert and then you'll reappear.
Yeah. Okay. And it's like, oh, that was close. I didn't exist for a second there.
Okay. All right. That makes me feel better.
I feel safer now.
I feel safer because the future me has not come back yet, so I've done something to him.
Oh, so you have seen future you.
I saw him, and he was like, "Don't pick up the Game Boy." And like, I couldn't listen because Mario Land.
Yeah. You had to play Tailgater.
I did. Ooh, I love that game though.
I know you do.
Oh wow, you know me.
I do know you.
You met me before.
I've heard of you. I've watched all of your videos.
You watched my my biography.
Yeah, on A&E biography.
Arts Entertainment interviews John. What have you done with your life? A lot of hot chocolate. That's exactly what's happening, it's the perfect middle of summer drink.
Yeah, it's nice and cold and refreshing.
Right, exactly. It quenches my thirst. There's a lot to talk about since we didn't get a chance to do Cyberzone last week. I'm excited because there's a whole lot that's come up. Mm-hmm. Number one is your stance on Pokemon Go was that you were not going to play it.
Yes.
And it's shifted to a degree. I don't know. And I wanted to sort of get some insight as to, with your experience now that you've tried it, you've seen sort of how it's impacted things socially. Like how do you feel? How do you feel about it?
So I got to give you the whole story here where I did not intend on playing Pokemon Go.
That's fair.
But like most phenomena, is that the plural of phenomeninos? I downloaded it because I was like, well, I'll try it, and I'll probably not like it because I don't have data.
Real quick, do you think phenomeninos is like some sort of like super transcendental Italian restaurant?
I think it's a team of Mexican superboys.
Phenomeninos? Okay. Like do you have like superpowers, or like they're I don't know.
They're really rowdy. They're like 400% rowdier than
Superboys. Okay, so like they just make a racket.
Yeah, they're always kicking balls
into like big metal garage doors.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So I downloaded it and I started it and I was like, oh, this is neat. Like I'm enjoying it. Because, first of all, Erin downloaded it before I did. She downloaded the APK before it was out in America.
Right. I'm reading that. Yeah.
And she just got absorbed. Like she has latched onto this game so much, and I'm thrilled. Like I love that she's into it so much.
Good. That's cool.
So I downloaded it and I started playing it. But the first thing you have to understand is A, I don't have a phone, I have a tablet.
Mm.
And B, I don't have data on said tablet. I only have Wi-Fi. So I'm kind of limited to my apartment and the surrounding area around it, or anywhere that has Wi-Fi. But I still played. And we started like tethering me to people's phones everyone bought like 5 extra batteries now that this game is out. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
stock in cell phone batteries, not to discount stock in Nintendo.
Right,
They're
yeah.
probably way up.
Which has done nothing but plummeted. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're the dumbest company ever.
It's bad decisions. Okay.
But I was right away. I figured that things weren't working quite right for me. Where I used 3 incense, and it was only the third one where I finally saw a Pokemon come.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2, I just sat and looked at my tablet for half an hour, and nothing happened.
That's fun.
And so, the Monday of this week, we were out in the park at night catching Pokemon. I was tethered. I got some new stuff. And then we went to a different park where there were 2 Pokestops, and you could hit them from like the parking lot because the park was closed. It was that late, but we sat in the parking lot, and everyone put lures down on the Pokestops. And I'm in this car with 3 other people, and I'm watching them just constantly catching Pokemon, and I have not seen a single thing pop up on mine.
No.
Like, not a single Pokemon. So I don't know if there's some like dual layer like data polling where it's like your GPS and then your data plan, and these 2 things together dictates that Pokemon pop up.
That's a fair question. Actually, very likely as well, because if you're connecting to just Wi-Fi, it's probably thinking that like if anything shows up on Wi-Fi radar, you're good. But the GPS has to actually be in effect,
Yeah,
like, actively, like super well, I think.
So I basically was frustrated and was tired because we were out like every night really late for like a week, and my body was like ready to shut down. So I'm taking a break from Pokemon Go. I'm kind of waiting for at least the radar bug to get fixed before I get back in.
Absolutely, and that's fair.
Because I'm not an early adopter typically. I don't have a high tolerance for things not working right day one.
Which is
the way I deal with that is just to not engage with them right away.
Sure. And this game is, I mean, a game of this scale is just going to be, but okay. So I've had a lot of discussions with people on this about like how the game's out of beta.
Yeah.
And we've had this discussion several times, when it comes to things like Skyrim or open world games, or, something released to a massive public, where your beta is still a very contained unit because no one prepared for this. You cannot release like something like this to the world, and the world actually responds almost in full and is like, yeah, thank you, and not have an issue, because it's the beta team was so infinitesimal compared to like how many people are actively playing this game. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Young people, old people who never touched a Pokemon game before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? It's a paradigm shift. We've been in the video game like thing market for, I mean, years. I mean, we've been invested in like the behind the scenes, the gears turning, the industry as a whole. Yeah. And I've never ever experienced anything of this degree. Even when Pokemon, which 20 years ago people said, no, this is a fad, it'll die down.
I think the closest thing that I can relate it to is when the Wii came out.
Or even World of Warcraft. I mean, for a while that was still a pretty big, but that was still contained in a household, and seeing the social impact of this is.
So I do want to say that like I love the way the game plays, but I hate the way the game is built, because once you hit a certain level, you are like tethered to Pokestops basically, because you just don't get enough balls. That's my biggest complaint, is that I don't get enough balls.
You never do.
But I find it like extremely boring and frustrating. Like the game is exciting to me when the radar is working and you can go like discern a Pokemon's location and walk around and try and track it down and get to it and catch it.
Sure.
The group of people who are just investing, and thanks guys for investing, because Nintendo's getting a lot of money and that's great. So is Google. But like the people who just buy like 100 packs of lures and just sit on a Pokestop all day and drop lures and sit there and wait for things to come to them, that is the most maddeningly boring thing for me to do.
Yeah, personally, because actually I get nothing happens in my house. I've had no Pokemon in my house once, period. The closest was something about 100 feet away from my house by my mailbox. And it was, close to a road, so I wonder if that had anything to do with it. And the closest Pokestop is about like a 5-minute walk down the street at a park. So I can't play at home. And the only experience I have engaging in this is going out with friends and being social and actually like actively exploring different areas. So in a sense, it's good because like while it sucks as a game I can't play at home, like it's just not built for that for me. Period.
Yeah.
I kind of like that if I'm gonna do it, it becomes like an actual excursion, like it's an outing that I get to go upon. So I'm actually far behind a lot of friends because I have no choice.
Yeah.
I don't play at work and I don't play at home. So, but it's interesting because for such a rudimentary game, there's really nothing to it. I mean, it's Ingress with a Pokemon skin, which is literally. I'm checking into this place. I'm the head honcho, and then that's it. But they masked it with something that is so universally nostalgic to such a huge gap, a huge spread of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it blows my mind to see that it's this well received among such a massive, massive group.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody has cell phones, and the game is free. So even if you're just trying it, it's very easy to get hooked and engaged simply on the principle of
But I am extremely curious to see this game in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months.
I think that's going to be the bigger question is how will it evolve? Because the game is really not exciting, but when it gets to trading and battling in second generations and large scale events, what happens then?
And are they going to roll these things out in time?
Right.
Because too many games come out with this hook that people are all about, and then they have to sit and wait for the complete experience. And by that time, their attention is elsewhere.
Right. And so I'm hoping that the best thing they can do is say, the core features of the game we want to get sort of implemented. And then as more content such as Generation 2 or the Legendary Bird events or whatever starts rolling out. And then you say once Generation 2 shows up, you have a new event that happens at the gyms because now that there's more to the game, doing gyms is no longer just same old. Doing gyms has like a new element, a new, fixation, something to make even more incentive instead of just catching more stuff and putting it in the gym the way you have been. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what their plan is because it seems like, they've got a pretty good grasp on how to get people hooked, but what will they do to continue that from getting boring, because there will be a drop off. I mean, it's not going to keep this momentum forever, but I feel it's still going to have such a huge market share, something we've never seen to this degree, that I'm excited to find out how big it will get.
Yeah.
Nico also asked an interesting question because he sees that I'm a little bit sick. What games did you typically play when you were sick? What memories do you have of that? Do you have like a sick game, a go-to game?
No, if I'm feeling like awful, like truly rotten, like if I have I have a cold, or I have my nose is running, that doesn't affect me. I've got diarrhea today. I just live my life, but if I'm full body ache, sleepy all the time, maybe throwing up or can't get any food down or whatever, I always gravitate towards a Final Fantasy, something really basic JRPG where I don't have to have lightning fast reflexes. And I can just it's sort of like chicken soup to go to a comforting, simple thing like that. I'll just huddle under a blanket and do that.
I think that's, RPG, I can't even speak, I'm thinking. But a role-playing game is honestly the best for me. And I don't play as much when I get sick now. I usually just sleep. But as a kid, I have a lot of memories of playing Chrono Trigger whenever I did take a sick day from school. So... yeah, there's a lot of memories associated with JRPGs simply because it's the easiest thing to not have to concentrate heavily on.
Yeah, the flip side of the coin is that there have been a lot of days I don't usually fall asleep while playing games, but when I do, it's because I'm playing an RPG and I'm sick.
Correct. Countless times I've fallen asleep in the middle of a Final Fantasy. So, okay. So speaking of Chrono Trigger, I'm gonna milk this voice thing for all it's worth because it's funny to me. I like sounding awful. Speaking of Chrono Trigger, I did yesterday download I Am Setsuna.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, if you've heard of it before, is it's such an homage to Chrono Trigger that it's mind blowing, honestly. And I was reading a bunch of interviews with the developers and producers and things like that. And while it's not the original like all star team, they went through Chrono Trigger several times and they figured out the maps and the spacing and the feel and the environments and sort of like what's contained, what is not, what's open, how do things move around, and use this as a huge insert. I can't speak at all. A huge source of inspiration to design the game. And fundamentally, it feels like a Chrono Trigger style game where characters are made out of like several distinct colors. You don't really see super details on their faces, and their character portraits, of course, are way more detailed than the characters. But the main character has like this big hood that's bright red and has got the shirt that's bright blue, and so it's easy to distinguish him from whatever's around, which is a lot of earthy colors, and then you have him, which is a lot of primary colors, and it's a really great contrast in terms of visual design. You have snow effects, you've got landscapes that are brown and white and green, and it's just visually it feels nostalgic, and it's not 8-bit, it's not 16-bit, it's full polygonal with shadows and light sourcing and everything. But it's cool because it feels classic in a way that I haven't felt in a long time, and who knows whether or not it's going to be good or not. But dialogue seems fine. It seems like certain choices already affect characters that you get in your party right off the bat, which is interesting. And I'm only like an hour in. I only had a chance to play for a little bit yesterday. But interestingly enough, and I wonder if this will be a theme for the whole game, every single song is played on piano. That I've noticed. There might be some drums in the back, there's a little bit of percussion, but everything is completely piano. And so the only thing I've noticed so far that I'm just not sure yet, I have to feel it out, is will the music not stand out because there's not a distinct timbre for every area because it's all the exact same instrument? But so far all the music's really good. Nothing earwormy yet, nothing that like I'm going to be humming. But I also wonder if like the piano only is going to be a detriment, or if it's going to be like this is setting the mood entirely, and that's like the sort of blanket instrument that they're going to be pushing. So I'm curious to see how that works out. But how much have you seen on the game so far?
Very little, like a couple screenshots, and that's it.
Okay.
I think it's cool, but I didn't know there was a PC version. I don't have a PS4, so
yeah, that might be.
I just recently found out that it was on PC. I was like, oh, okay, well maybe I will pick it up.
I was kind of upset because I was playing last night, and I remember reading something because somebody asked me, hey, is this out for PC? So I popped online, went to Wikipedia, and it said it releases PS4, Vita, and Windows. And I was like, oh, I have a Vita in the other room. So I ran over there, and I got it, off my charger. And I was like, this would be so perfect because playing RPG on like a little handheld like this, level up when I'm, out and about, resync it. This is going to be so great. And then I forgot about something that I had read earlier, and I was like, I can't find it in the store. I can't cross download. Like, where does this? Why does this not exist? And so I popped online, and one of the producers was like, yeah, we decided we wanted to focus on like the big screen, full illustrious experience. So it's not on the Vita in the US. And I was like, oh. Which sucks because like it's out in Japan, on the Vita. So they didn't just apply like a translation, which I know is still a lot of work. But I was kind of bummed out to find that like, I just couldn't get the cross-play experience, and that's just the way of it. So whatever. But the game itself, though, Michael, I mean, like you attack, tech, item. Okay, Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. And
then if two people's little active time meters build up, it becomes combo. And in the game, there's straight up X strike, which functions exactly the way it's really cool so far because like it's not shameful at all of saying, you guys remember what this felt like? Well, here's, a new experience in that same vein. And so it's kind of cool, kind of like the way that, new developers make Metroidvania style games. And they're clearly like, this is homage, we're giving you the same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm liking it so far, and I would like to sit down and play it a bit more, but yeah, my time has been limited. So
now do you think, because I know that you don't really have the mindset for JRPGs really anymore, do you think it's a game that's going to pull you in, or do you think that you're going to get a couple out, like 4 or 5 hours, and be like, okay, I've had enough?
I think the biggest thing that's going to dictate that for me is depending on how simple it is. The reason classic Final Fantasies or Earthbound or games like that are easier for me to pick up and play is because they don't require almost any thought in the battle system. Like, it's if you want to make something easier for yourself, you can. If you want to put more technique into doing something more efficiently, it's there. But in most cases, you can sort of hit X until the battle's done and you're fine. And because of that, I'm actually very attracted to the idea of, like, if the game keeps itself simple, I'll probably be more prone than wanting to learn it if it had like 4 or 5 brand new combat mechanics that were all employed, in various stages of the game. Because the more and more complex stuff like that gets, the less I want to take the time to learn it, because it's just, I'm micromanaging so much that I lose interest. So if they can keep it simple, then I feel I will totally want to play this through to the end.
Okay.
And so that's actually what I'm hoping for. If they're saying this is Chrono Trigger, then I say, cool, that's easy to just play. I'm fine. You might have to cast this or that spell here or there or something. But, more for a boss fight. I guess boss fights are always a little bit more complex than just enemy battles. But I'm curious so far. And we'll follow up next week, and I'll let you know if it gets any better or if it's just absolutely the worst thing in the universe.
Those are the only options.
Exactly. Like it's so bad. It's actually my most hated game. I like Home Alone more. That'd be my review. You're better off playing the worst NES game.
Yeah. Congratulations, Home Alone. You are off the hook.
Congratulations. What about you and RPGs right now? Are RPGs something that are on your radar?
I still enjoy them, but here's what happens now is I'll tell myself, like, oh, I'd like to beat like a couple games in my backlog this week. Like, I can do like 2 or 3 games. Like, that'd be cool. 1 would be nice. And so when I'm picking games to play, I look at RPGs and I'm always just like, I want to play that, but I'm not going to, like, I'm going to put it in like 15 hours this week, and then I'll get sidetracked and end up doing something else, and who knows. So,
yeah.
Like, I have a stack of NES games that I thought I would try and tackle this week if I had some extra time, which I don't know if I will or not. But at the very top is Dragon Warrior 3, because that was like, okay, if I finish all these other ones, if I'm down to like 1 game that I still want to play this week, then I'll work on an RPG. But
okay. So, speaking of RPGs, and this is a very indirect segue. Mm-hmm. The NES Mini. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, fighting game tournament. I kind of wanted to discuss the NES Mini.
Sure.
Because number one is also, speaking of like a world of unprecedented news, Pokemon Go is like at the top of the charts. Nintendo stock is above Sony right now, and Nintendo decided to release like a compilation system with, like, 60% of its licensed games.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it.
The commercial came out today and it was like perfect.
Oh, they nailed the feel, which is, I think, their biggest thing is sort of their marketing right now is really cool, because a lot of people ask me, like, why would they do this? Why can't it play cartridges? Why can't it do this? I don't even want this. I already have these games. I could emulate them. And I was like, listen, because something exists does not mean you're the target market. Because you like video games, it does not mean this is meant for you. Mm-hmm. Like my client base, 60% of them would eat this up without even thinking. Like, this is a huge thing. But number one is to me what this screams by being a self-contained unit of 30 games for $60, which is a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
Is, hey, remember how much fun Nintendo was? Here's the NX. Do you want to see how fun Nintendo is?
Yeah, it's a really good framing system. And the thing that stands out to me is that the day it was announced, everyone that I know that likes video games was pretty much like, oh, check this out. This was announced. What do you think of the game list? And mm-hmm. that. But today that the commercial is out, I've seen people who I went to high school with that I didn't even know played video games posting like, oh my God, we got to get one of these. Like, yeah. This is hits me right in the childhood.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. And I'm thinking like, wow, I had no, and they're probably going to play it for a couple days and it'll collect dust, but whatever,
Sure. Yeah.
It reminds me that there's a Fruit Loops commercial that came out, I think like less than a year ago, where it's like this couple in their 20s, maybe early 30s, and it's like late night and they bust out the Nintendo and play Mario 1 while eating Fruit Loops and like yelling at the TV.
Right.
it's just sort of like it's surprising how people are responding to this.
Yeah, it's really cool. And kind of like Pokemon in the sense where there are people who may have had like, they played it once when they were younger and then just didn't care. But the moment the original 150 come back, the childhood is struck. The nostalgia vein, is just it's hit with that axe.
Yeah.
And it all comes out to like, holy crap, this is a part of my life that I remember vividly. And I do feel that people come into the store and they will buy an NES just for Duck Hunt. And they'll play it for probably 10 minutes and be like, cool, that's all there is to this. I just remembered it. I wanted the quick experience. But that price is worth it to them to get that nostalgia hit.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, it's very much the same kind of thing. Maybe they only want to play Mario 1 or 2, and that's it. Maybe they just don't want to play. Was there a Dragon Warrior on there?
There is not, actually.
Okay. It was Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
That's what they got. Okay. Which is still, hey, I mean, that's like a $20 game easily. So that's a third of the system's price.
Yeah.
And it's HDMI and it's official controller and it's, the save states and like things that just make this experience really interesting.
What surprises me is that, obviously this isn't the first one of these. There's the Atari flashbacks, 4 of them, I think, maybe even more.
Yeah, and television has got one.
Yeah, and there's the Sega Genesis one, which goes a step farther and has a cartridge slot.
Yes.
But I don't remember anyone being like, oh my God, like, I got to get that Sega one.
That's weird because we've had lots of them come through and people never actually really think about that. They don't mention it. But then when Nintendo does it without a cartridge slot, I've heard a lot of why would they do that.
Yeah.
Very interesting dynamic. And of course, Nintendo doesn't benefit from a cartridge slot in this thing because they would make $0 on it.
They don't sell cartridges.
Yeah. So, it makes sense. Plus it's extra cost, for something that literally does not benefit them. So, it's really just a great contained unit. But you had this idea in the shower.
I did, yeah.
You interrupted your shower to tell me this, and this is like
I didn't interrupt the shower, but I didn't dry off because I was home alone, and I just turned off the water and ran out to the computer, and sent you a message because I said I was just washing my hair, thinking about it, and I was like, "What if there's an NFC reader inside of this thing that they're not talking about, and they could just release Amiibo with any because Amiibo can hold what?"
They can hold probably even if they can hold a meg.
Yeah, that's good enough for any single NES game.
Yeah, completely. What's also cool about that as well is so there's the NFC characters, the Amiibo figures, but Animal Crossing has Amiibo cards.
Yes.
Imagine buying it's like the Mega Man collection. And it's Mega Man 1 through 6, but it's the original boxes are the cards. You could keep them in a little slip or something. Imagine having a wallet full of NES games that are just the cards that look like boxes with a description on the back. I would do anything.
This is this weird, because there were NES games for the e-reader.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also thinking back to the Master System or the TurboGrafx, which used credit card sized games.
Sure.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I just want an Airwolf Amiibo.
Just a helicopter?
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
All I want.
The licensing mess that would go along with this. Yeah, Knight Rider and
Yonoid.
Oh, yep. Yonoid Amiibo.
Yeah.
That's it. The thing is never say never. That's unbelievably unlikely, but
I saw a new Domino's commercial today with the Noid in it. They brought the Noid back.
He's nostalgia's so big right now, they might as well.
Yeah.
Spuds McKenzie should also come back for what it's worth.
Yep.
A dog that sells beer. That's weird. Was it Michelob?
I think it was Budweiser.
You might be right. I don't know. I don't know enough about beer. Anyway, Ronnie actually asks, which are your favorite games and genres you typically don't enjoy? And I'd actually like to get to this because it's a good question. There's still more NES stuff I want to get back to, but I was just sort of thinking about this question in my brain.
Well, I think first we have to define what are genres that we don't enjoy.
So I also have to distinguish between genres I'm not good at because I like RTSs, but I'm terrible at them, so I don't play them.
Yeah, pretty much the same here.
But by that token, I love StarCraft.
The first 3 or 4 levels of a Command and Conquer or a StarCraft or something, those are blissful.
Yeah, it's great.
The difficulty cranks up, and I'm like, well, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I love playing StarCraft on easy mode because it's I can suffer my way through a level and still beat it and feel a challenge and get the story, because I actually like the story in those games, which is really weird because, me, story isn't a high priority, but there's something about the way that the story is presented in those games that I love it. That's all I want, is just they've created this interesting universe, and I'm not even into sci-fi, and I'm not into any of this, but I love it so much. What about you've? What are genres that you just don't do?
MOBAs.
Okay.
But I can't think of a single. I guess like Monday Night Combat was kind of a MOBA, and I enjoyed that for a bit. I'm told I would like Smite, but I haven't tried it. There's not a lot of genres that I just like flat out don't like. Sandbox games. I don't like them. I'm thinking of like what's one that I did play. Like Nobi Boy is probably the most aimless game that I put the most time into.
Okay.
Sure. But yeah, I think for me it's kind of in for a penny, in for a pound, where if I don't like a genre, there's like Koei games. A lot of them are kind of too dense for me, but I also at the same time wish that they weren't. Like there's a part of me that yearns to learn how to play Romance of the Three Kingdoms and like just do that all day.
Yeah.
But there are certain Koei games that I do enjoy, things like Aerobiz, things like Uncharted Waters, the SNES port of Civilization. I'm a big fan of.
Okay. But I guess it's hard also to define like a straight up. There's genres that are not preferred, but I can't think of a single genre that I would say I will never, I'm just straight not interested in this, because I've played sports games that I like, I've played RTSs, I guess, I've played Koei games that I totally enjoyed, maybe I don't have the time or patience for them now, but it's hard to universally just sort of single something out and say, this genre as a whole is just...
I'm always kind of surprised when people are like, oh, sports games. Like, first of all, they're all like, depending on the sport, I think they're all very different. I think like a tennis game or a golf game are very sort of user friendly compared to something like Madden, where you're just hitting a ball back and forth, and you're just trying to come up with the most skilled shot. Like Mario Golf and Hot Shots Golf, I just want to play that with people all day, all the time. I love those games.
The Camelot games in general, Camelot sports.
And even the ones that aren't, like I had a Super Swing Golf on the Wii, and aside from the terrible load times, like that is a really enjoyable game for me.
Did you ever do Ribbit King?
I never did Ribbit King.
It's pretty fun. We should try that next time you're down.
Okay. Which might be in a couple weeks. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because Erin wants to get Red Robin, and she's been promised a free trip to Red Robin. So,
yum.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yep. That's the boss, the CEO. So he responds to everything.
Just every press release is just this 72-point font, yum, in landscape. But getting back to my point, like, I think that modern sports games tend to be a little bit more simulatory. Is that a word? They tend to be more sims than like an NBA Jam.
Sure.
But NBA Jam is really fun.
NBA Jam's great.
Tecmo Bowl is really fun.
Even Blitz.
Yeah.
I had a great time playing. And at that point, I had actually zero interest in football. It wasn't until, recent years that I finally kind of was like, all right, maybe I'll check it out because the girl I was dating was into it. But Blitz, I played. Or my favorite football game was the football mini game in Tiny Toons Buster Bust Loose.
That was really fun. Yeah.
It was a side-scrolling football game, and I loved it. Yeah.
Run or pass.
Yeah, I loved it so much.
So, I guess the moral of every story on this podcast is like, don't be prejudiced against certain things.
It's always good.
Or anything. Like, it's pretty much never a good idea in life to be prejudiced.
Yeah, I mean, you don't eat. Do you ever eat cereal just by itself? I know you don't eat it with milk because you can't. But
I eat it with yogurt.
Okay. Have you ever gotten excited for a cereal based off of your experience with previous cereals, and like tried a cereal and you just ate it and you were like, "This sucks"?
That's how I feel about any cereal that comes out with an apple flavor.
What about Apple Jacks?
No, they're gross.
Okay, so you don't like apple flavored? Like,
I don't. I remember when like apple cinnamon Cheerios came out when I was a kid, and I don't even like Cheerios, but I like apples and I like cinnamon, and I thought like, oh yeah, here we go.
But not apple flavored cereals.
It's not tasty.
Okay.
I don't like it. It doesn't even taste like apples to me.
Maybe that's why I like Apple Jacks, because they don't taste like apples at all. Straight up. Okay.
You just like having your mind blown every morning for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah, just every single time. How do they do that?
Not what I expected.
Getting back to some of the NES though, there's actually a couple things I wanted to talk to you about with the choices that they put in for like the game list.
Yeah.
Because
so the very first thing, I woke up, I saw the article, and I thought, fucking Urban Champion.
I was exactly. I was like, don't just pull out your licensed games, Nintendo. Like, not licensed, but your own. Don't pull from your pool, because like, you know, there's games I like, but there's also games I don't necessarily want on here.
And I think they could have done that, and it would have still been fine.
Yeah,
I honestly think they could have just every first party Nintendo game they could have just dumped on this thing, not paid a dime for licensing, and it would have sold like butterscotch.
Oh yeah,
you know, like a Werther's original.
Easily.
So yeah,
I thought that was the case when they announced it. I was like, this is going to be just a licensed machine of all like Nintendo first party.
So I clicked the article, and I didn't even read the list. I just scrolled down to the bottom, and I went Legend of Zelda, the Tecmo, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2. And I thought, huh, Tecmo.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and look, and yeah.
100% what I did as well too. I was like, don't tell me. So, you know, and of all the Nintendo first party titles that I saw, Ice Climber was actually the least interesting on the list to me, because I don't dislike the game, but it's definitely like not memorable. Even though I played it a lot as a kid, I don't think I ever really loved it.
It's kind of a toss up for me between the Donkey Kongs, because they're not good ports.
No, they're inferior to the arcade version.
And Pac-Man.
Pac-Man's interesting simply because like Galaga actually makes more sense, because we get a lot of requests for Galaga on NES and it sells very well. It's like a $15 title and it goes consistently. Pac-Man less so, but I get a lot of requests for it oddly on the Genesis. But I guess in terms of like an all-in-one package, having that alongside everything else is like, okay, well, you know, it'll satisfy people who aren't even like a Mario fan, you know?
This is the dumb thing about being selfish and about like the way that brains work that doesn't make sense, is that if they had said the NES Mini with 32 games, and they said like all these 30 NES classics plus Pac-Man and Galaga, I would be like, all right, yeah, sure.
Okay, so like
because it's an even 30 and Pac-Man and Galaga made the cut, I'm just like, no, why? Why did you do that?
It is interesting. It is interesting, but I mean, I'm actually wondering where they sort of like gathered data from to choose these, because do you have the list with you?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so let's actually start from the top.
All right.
I don't have the list with me, so
okay. Balloon Fight.
Balloon Fight.
This is a no-brainer pick to me, especially with Iwata's passing a year ago, and
100%.
it's. I really maintain. I think this is a game that people kind of sleep on.
Yes.
Where I remember as a kid, my brother and I associated this game with elevator action, where it's just like 2-word premises that made no sense, right?
Yeah.
Elevator action, balloon fight, and we just lumped them together and like those are stupid. And then I went to my friend's house and I played Balloon Fight, and I thought this is a lot of fun.
It's so much fun.
It's a really fun game for how old it is and how simple it is.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the best like black label NES games there are.
It's a great little one to include on there. You have a second player. You guys can co-op the campaign or whatever. It's Joust with weirder looking things. But then I love endless mode so much.
Balloon Trip, yeah.
Balloon Trip is one of my favorite things about that game. And I remember when they released it for the Wii U Virtual Console, then you could post your score to the Miiverse. As I sat there all day long trying to get high scores, seeing other people's high scores, and then trying to beat those.
Yeah,
I had a blast with it. Okay, so Balloon Fight. What's next?
Bubble Bobble.
I'm very impressed they got the license for that too. I mean, I'm sure Taito was just sort of like cool, whatever. But in terms of like a choice, that's also a very, very consistently asked for game at the shop.
Yeah, everybody had Bubble Bobble, and if they didn't, they had a friend who did, and that's where they played it with their friend all the time.
It's a phenomenal 2-player game. It's got 100 levels. You're gonna beat the game incorrectly, then have to redo it all, collecting the extra stuff, and it's got replay value out the butthole. Yeah, it's a good choice. Bubble Bobble's
Yep.
a very, very good choice.
Castlevania.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
You know, happy to see that. Happy that Konami, you know, while they're sitting in their kitchen with butter knives up their butts, like it's nice for them to like throw out a couple licenses. They're like, okay, that's, you know, and of
Yeah.
course for them it's easy money because they're just like, all right, Nintendo will pay us to use 3 of our franchises or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's a no-brainer. Like it's one of the games that you associate. It was on Captain N.
Yeah,
Simon was part of the whatever they were called, the Nintendo Boys
yeah, exactly.
with a Z.
It was the cool like gay pilot version too. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
part.
that's my favorite. I love
Yeah.
that level where you steal Baloo's jacket from Tailspin
Yeah, and you have to
and
comb
Rocket
your
Knight's
hair.
goggles.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Castlevania 1 and 2, if I'm not
Castlevania
mistaken.
2, and that to me is a shocking pick.
I also, but I kind of like that they get the contrast because Castlevania 1 and 3, those are my favorites.
Yeah.
But the contrast of 1 and 2 being such different games, I think is a very good decision.
And I love Castlevania 2. I routinely defended this game, and I think a big part of it is that if you were a kid and you played it in 1988, like it's the same thing with Mario 2. And I always have to remind people that like when Mario 2 came out or Zelda 2, it wasn't a question of like, oh my God, this is so different from the other one. It was just like, well, naturally, yeah, this is what a sequel to a video game is like.
Yeah, it's got the name, it's got the feel, but it's a different experience.
Yeah. And it might have some elements, you know, Pac-Man to Miss Pac-Man is a more literal thing.
Yeah.
But Donkey Kong to Donkey Kong Jr. to Donkey Kong 3,
Yeah.
those are very different experiences. I'm trying to think of like other classic arcade games that shifted really heavily from original to sequel.
Sure.
And I can like come up with like obscure examples, but when these games came out, we didn't care that it was different. It was like, oh, this is something new that I have to learn. Like this is a more fleshed out idea. Like I remember thinking, of course, Simon would go into towns and talk to people and buy holy water. You know, of course, Mario wouldn't just jump on enemies. He would be able to like pull things and throw them at them. Like,
yeah,
it was just a more fleshed out look into these worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And then now with hindsight, you can go back and say like, what is going on here?
Yeah, very
But
much
still,
a black sheep. Yeah,
I really do like Castlevania 2.
Love it. Love
but
it.
it is an oddball pick for me because it is so famously kind of pooped on.
It's interesting, and maybe they're hoping that people give it a genuine second chance. You buy the system; it's already on there. Hey, you might have missed out, or you might have heard online, you know, that somebody didn't like it. But hey, try it, see what you think. Especially because the Metroidvania genre has become so popular. Mm-hmm. I think it's really good for them to say, guys, this is actually what all of you want. So maybe you should give this a shot. I'm kind of hoping that that's, you know, part of the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game had great, and a lot of people's favorite Castlevania music comes from that one too. So
yes,
you know. Nico says, I'm surprised no Blaster Master since Sunsoft is so good with Nintendo as they release Sunsoft games on Virtual Console. Super Spy Hunter Journey to Silius would be great. And I actually was sad to see no Blaster Master. Because yeah, I mean Sunsoft still, I don't know like what the licensing and rights, you know, situation is with them at all, who owns them or where they lay with any of that. But yeah, some of that came out for the Virtual Console, and it would have been awesome for Blaster Master as well too.
Well, let me tell you what I'm looking at here, because if you look, here's what I'm not. I like Blaster Master, but I'm totally okay with it not being on here.
Mm-hmm.
I really am, and I'm looking at all the games on this list, particularly the licenses. Right?
Sure.
All the games that are licensed come from storied franchises that, in a lot of ways, are still relevant today.
Okay, or are represented maybe in Smash Brothers, such as Ice Climbers. Or okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, like the first party stuff, like Balloon Fight and Ice Climbers, it's a little harder to defend that. But like people, there's not like Blaster Master T-shirts on the Yeti. There's not, there's not like a retro Blaster Master mug that you can get at Hot Topic. Like these things don't exist. I don't mean to spoil this conversation that we're having, but like I'm gonna go through all the licensed games. Bubble Bobble was kind of the outlier, but Bubble Bobble, there's tons. There's so many Bubble Bobble games. Most recently, Bust-A-Move Dimensions on the 3DS, I think.
Yeah, they've been going with those characters for decades.
Castlevania 1 and 2.
Absolutely, that makes sense. There's no question that those games should be represented.
Double Dragon 2.
Because it's a 2-player one is my guess why they included that one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But Double Dragon, there's 3 good ones. Well, there's 2 good ones, an okay one, and 2 bad ones. And then Double Dragon Neon came out pretty recently and kind of revitalized interest in Double Dragon as a whole.
What I wondered actually is if they were looking at sales data from things like that, because with Neon coming back out, thinking, hey, like let's see, look at the numbers for that and see how it did, and they probably saw that between Steam and Xbox and PlayStation, it probably sold pretty well. So hey, okay, that might be a good franchise to look into. Then which one do we choose? Blaster Master did have that revival some years back on the Wii.
Yeah,
and I'm willing to wager it probably didn't do very good.
It probably didn't sell very well.
Yeah.
The intermittent games between Blaster Master 1 and that one also did not sell well. There was Blaster again on the PS1. Yep. There was Blaster Master 2 on the Genesis. Like there are a lot of Blaster Master games, but they don't have the sales numbers to back them up. That's,
I think, probably what the biggest thing is. And maybe they even used Virtual Console data and said, how is this game selling? And it's like 50 people bought it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Honestly, a Virtual Console sales are probably a large part of it because I think all of these games are available Virtual Console wise.
I believe not necessarily on the same system, but yes, all 30 are available between the Wii, the Wii U, and the 3DS. Okay. All 30 are available.
Yeah, so that's probably where a lot of the gauging came from as well. Okay, so after Double Dragon 2?
Final Fantasy.
Which is a very good choice.
Yeah,
to put on there because seriously, a lot of people probably haven't had the chance to play it, and this is a great place to be like, well, it's on my collection. Let's try it. Let's see what it was like really originally.
And then they're gonna target an enemy after it's dead and miss and quit the game forever.
That's very likely to happen. That wolf is dead, but I'm still going to attack where it was.
Yep.
What a great feature.
After that is Galaga. There are not a lot of Galaga games, but like the Namco Museum property has kept all these things very relevant for a long time.
Yeah, Galaga is still very much a topic of discussion. I wear my Galaga shirt to work, and people comment it tons, all the time. Galaga is mentioned very frequently.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ghosts and Goblins.
I like that they did that. I'm glad that this game that is notorious for this is the one game on here that's going to make you destroy your controller.
Yeah.
But with the save states, hey, this might be people's chance for vindication.
It's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Gradius.
Was Gradius on there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Actually, for some reason, I thought it wasn't because somebody mentioned that it was Galaga, not Gradius. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. But okay, Gradius is a very good choice.
Mm-hmm. And it's not Life Force. I think most people would have picked Life Force between the two.
Yeah, for the 2-player mode especially, I think.
Yeah. And there hasn't really been a Gradius game recently. But
I wonder how many people, though, because the Gradius name, I feel, is probably more well-known.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Gradius 2, Gradius 3, Gradius 5, it's been going on for so long that it's strictly a name, but okay.
After that is Mega Man 2.
Which, if you're going to choose an NES Mega Man to represent, clearly that's the one. Okay.
After that is Ninja Gaiden.
I was happy to see that too. I was happy to see Tecmo's name on there as well. My personal favorite is Ninja Gaiden 2, but I think Ninja Gaiden is still, it's one of those games that, because that whole series is consistent pretty much all the way through, Gaiden 1 is just as good as any, really, to say this is the experience.
Yeah, they don't vary. When I was making my own list, and I was like, well, Ninja Gaiden 2, I kind of like more than one, but the experiences are so similar. It's
very negligible to differentiate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Pac-Man. I guess they're just saying, because people are going to remember this era, Pac-Man. You're getting a lot of families, moms and dads who will be like, hey, video games in the 80s were defined with a couple things. Mario Brothers and Pac-Man is probably to quell a lot of that. Okay, that's on the same system. And
additionally, Pac-Man had a bit of a marketing blitz recently. There was a Pac-Man cartoon, I think, 2 years ago. So
Adventures or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go to Super C.
And a lot of people are asking, why not Contra? And the last time Contra appeared in any way for the NES was the Way Forward release of Contra as an unlockable title, but it did not show up on the Virtual Console for any of Nintendo's 3 systems recently. And I had heard that there was some sort of like dispute between the arcade version and the NES version, which I don't know how that would work internally.
Well, they're very different games.
They are very different games, but that's just something that I had read, so I didn't really go in depth on it. But because it didn't appear, I wondered if there was some sort of strange licensing or legal issue that prevented that from being chosen.
Possibly. No. I think if nothing else, like Super C it's a more varied game in terms of gameplay, and it's got more striking visuals.
Sure.
Than Contra. And again, it's one of those things where really, I know people tend to prefer Contra to Super C, but the gameplay is so similar that
ultimately it's again negligible. Yeah, the memories of Contra, I think, is like the biggest thing that people were like, oh, I wish they would have chosen that. But Super C is also a great game. It's also just significantly easier to like.
It is much easier.
If you haven't played Contra in a long time, it's hard to get back into the patterns. If you haven't played Super C, you can still probably beat that game in like an hour. So, yeah.
And the final one is Tecmo Bowl.
That makes sense.
It does, and it I think there's a layer to this that people don't realize, because Tecmo Bowl is vastly inferior to Tecmo Super Bowl.
Correct.
The difference being that Tecmo Super Bowl has licensed NFL teams in it, Tecmo Bowl uses actual player names,
which is funny,
but they don't, because I think it was licensed by the Players Union, but they just had like placeholder cities with weird logos.
Yeah.
So it's much cheaper.
Yeah, significantly cheaper
than to do Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah, and you ask, I mean, that game also sells a stupid amount in the store. People come in all the time looking for Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl, but either way, those games are guaranteed to like be like, if you had a Nintendo and Tecmo Bowl was part of your life, you could sit there with your friends for God knows how long and play that game.
They were doing Tecmo Super Bowl World Championships up until this last year. This last year was the final one.
Oh,
like, because there was enough of a community that would come out. The reason they stopped doing it actually is because they feel like they've pushed the meta as far as it can go.
Yeah.
No one's going to find anything new. So they just retired and said, this is how it's always going to go down.
Sure. Yeah. I was hoping you were going to say Tecmo Super Bowl World, and that's it. And like a map screen and unlockable secrets.
Save files.
Yeah, exactly.
Dragons to ride on.
Yeah, hidden chests.
Yep.
Nico also says, as far as Nintendo, I'm also surprised no ice hockey, NES Open Tournament Golf, Pro Wrestling, Star Tropics 2, Super Spike V-Ball, Nintendo World Cup, and even Rad Racer, since Square was cool with Final Fantasy. And again, I think those are not bad games. I mean, there's a lot of great choices. You have made a significantly, bigger list that you're able to whittle down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to a degree, there's still a lot of stuff that is left off.
Yeah, I went through the list of NES games once and was cutting things off mentally, where there were games like, oh, that's a good game, but no, you're going to wind up like way over your head.
Yeah.
And I've just made one trip through the list. I went up with 71 games, and from there I cut it down to 30.
That's tough.
It was really hard.
Yeah, which is really amazing to think that, like, this is a good spread. Let's actually go through the other first-party games real quick and discuss those.
So Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr.
Which, sure, of course, they're not the best versions, but
they are emblematic of really Nintendo's. It's kind of like Rare Replay, right? They could have left out all those ZX Spectrum games, and unless you lived in the UK, nobody would have said anything.
Not pertinent.
But they're so important to the company's development and their rise to prominence.
Donkey Kong is vital. I mean, that's just as much Nintendo as anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Dr. Mario.
That's fair. I mean,
Nintendo really had three big puzzle games. Three on the NES. And two of them, one of them was not good, that being Yoshi.
Oh, yeah.
I could also throw the NES version of Wario's Woods on there as not being very good.
I like Yoshi's Cookie.
I do too, but that was not Nintendo developed. I mean, I can't say like, well, it's not a license. They wouldn't do that. But
but outsourced kind of thing.
Yeah. So there's Dr. Mario and there's Tetris, and Tetris would require giving some money.
Right.
And I don't even know if Tetris is available. I don't think it is. I don't think it's on the Virtual Console.
It's weird. The Game Boy version is available on the 3DS Virtual Console, but I don't think the NES version is on the other ones. Yeah. It's very strange. But Tetris is a good choice. It sucks they couldn't do Tengen Tetris now, 2 players, but of course, like Nintendo's not gonna be like, well, hey Tengen, what do you say?
Yeah.
You know, like
how about we give you the olive branch and this isn't
Right.
your time to shine.
Exactly.
You've been exonerated.
But yeah, Tetris makes sense. And Dr. Mario, I mean, I know a lot of people who also we get a lot of requests, and a lot of people I know speak of it very fondly.
Dr. Mario was the only Nintendo game that my sister would play. We got it, and she started playing it, and she just wouldn't play it. She was like, "No, I have no interest in any other game. I just want to play this."
Just Dr. Mario. Okay, it's fair.
After that is Excite Bike.
That also a lot of requests.
It's the track editor is certainly a unique feature.
Yeah, it's a big staple, I think, of the Nintendo like experience, especially if you're talking mid '80s when it first came out. Chances are you were somebody who knew how to Excite Bike and you played it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple game. There's nothing to it, and the American version has no music, but it's a great game. I like it.
I do too. I've always been fond of Excite Bike.
Trials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Trials, Zero Mission. Okay. What else?
Then we go all the way down to Ice Climber.
Which I think it's because, well, oddly enough, they're not in the new Smash Brothers, but their relevance in Smash Brothers, or maybe as a 2-player game, by Nintendo, 2-player co-op, might be part of it. Because I don't have a lot of crazy fond memories of it. I don't dislike it, but it's one that I personally would have left off in favor of something else.
I'm glad it's there and not Wrecking Crew.
Sure.
Which is a game that I wanted more. Like I remember thinking like Wrecking Crew is so cool because I owned Ice Climber. And the reality is that neither of them is terribly great.
Right.
But they're similar in sort of presentation and era.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Ice Climber is the one that's on there. I'd rather play Ice Climber than Wrecking Crew.
That's fair. Okay.
Kid Icarus.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, if you're having major franchises, Kid Icarus, it's funny for having a total of 3 games.
Yeah, but it is.
It's a very pertinent character, and he's in Smash Brothers now. He had, an amazingly presented 3DS game, and it's a big part of NES childhood.
Then after that is Kirby's Adventure, which thrilled that's on there. That's a fantastic Nintendo game.
Arguably one of the biggest on the machine. That game was so massive in content. So good.
Then we have Mario Bros.
I don't understand that choice.
Yeah.
Wait, is it Mario Bros or Super?
Mario Bros.
So classic arcade, 2-player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Actually, I don't remember seeing that on the list, but that is interesting. But I mean, it also makes sense. I'm not particularly fond of the game. I think it's fine, but I think it's also a very large part of the arcade scene, and I'm sure enough people had that. People still ask for that as well too. So
yeah,
it retains enough of an importance factor for Nintendo. I mean, clearly the Mario games are. I'm glad they did put all 3. It would be really weird if they omitted anything. Mario. Okay.
Metroid.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much to say about that. Yeah.
Punch Out.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, again, the 3 most requested games that we get in the shop are Punch Out, Contra, and Mario 3 for the NES. And so having all 3 of those represented through those, even if it's not Mike Tyson, that's more than enough to keep people happy.
Mm-hmm. Star Tropics.
I didn't expect that.
It's kind of the odd duck.
Yeah, I'm glad, because I wonder if Nintendo, I mean, they can't siphon data from the NES Mini and Big, how many people actually played this. But there's a lot of other games I would peg to be chosen above that.
I think it's because I Google Star Tropics 1,000 times a day.
And they saw that?
Yeah, they saw that. And they're like, man, there's a lot of activity for this game.
People are interested in this, yeah. You see my post to you about Star Tropics?
Yeah. The Mario trilogy.
Sure, absolutely.
You can't. I told a lot of people that, because someone asked me when I did my list and I posted it to Facebook, because I posted it to the community page, but I also posted it on my wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that it was not a consensus top 30. It was not my personal top 30. And it was not a top 30 of historical significance. And someone asked me, well, then what is it? And I said, well, it's kind of in the middle of those because, for example, I would not put Mario 1 on a device like this.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. I know that that's what probably the first game that everyone's gonna go to play, but I'm kind of like Mario 1'd out,
Sure.
where when I play that game now, I speed run it essentially on my level. Like I'm not setting any world records, but
Right.
I'm not like, oh, this is gonna be fun. It's just like, okay, well, how quickly can I get through this? Like when it comes up.
Yeah.
When I'm playing Mario All Stars, or when I'm going through my virtual console stuff, I'll pop it on and I'll say, well, this will take 4 minutes with warp zones, or like 30 if I don't warp, and then I'm done with it. And I'm not interested in it anymore.
Right.
Whereas 2 and 3, like the music and the visual presentation and the variance of the levels is very exciting to me. And when I play those games, I sort of relish the experience. Whereas 1 is just kind of going through the motions for me.
That's totally fair. I can completely see that. And I want to talk for a quick second about how Mario 2 is so fascinating to me as a device that has been used to introduce so much more to the Mushroom Kingdom by not being part of the Mushroom Kingdom initially.
Yeah.
Because the amount of content that's come from that game that has stuck with Mario lore is fascinating to me. But I love it. I love Mario 2.
It is, yeah.
And then, of course, actually, when I first talked to you about this, I was thinking, oh, this would be a great opportunity for me to throw like Earthbound Beginnings on there. And while it would be, that would be a phenomenal amiibo expansion, because what they're going for is the nostalgia of what did the NES have during this era. And if they threw something that simply didn't exist to any of us as consumers during that era on the American Nintendo, it would be kind of like, that's weird. How do they miss out on this game? So I think it's wise that they actually stayed away from that or the Lost Levels.
Yeah.
Because that was not the US Nintendo experience.
If they had released a Famicom Mini, I would expect those games to be on there.
Import the shit out of them. Yeah.
I like to really quick. The last 2 are the 2 Zelda games. There doesn't really need to be.
I don't know what those are, but okay.
Oh, it's about a Pikmin.
Oh, cool. I like those.
Yeah.
Okay. Pikmin Go.
Yep.
That's what I'm playing on my phone right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of roll my eyes when people talk about like, oh, why doesn't it have a cartridge slot? Why isn't it expandable? Why doesn't it have this game? Why doesn't it have that game? But the thought occurred to me, because I'm still playing a ton of Rare Replay.
Sure.
Just working my way through it. And the thought occurred to me that like, how cool would it have been to have the Donkey Kong countries on there? Because there's no Super Nintendo games on Rare Replay. There's not a single one.
Right.
And in hindsight, if they had done a game trade, if they had said, yes, we will give you Diddy Kong Racing and we'll give you Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And in return, you can put Battletoads on the NES Mini. You can put RC Pro-Am.
Farts, yeah.
That
would have been a phenomenal exchange. Though I wonder, like, at the time, especially because what Rare Replay was it, a year ago?
I think like 2 maybe by now.
Yeah, you might be right. But very much like during the negotiations, it would be really cool just to sort of say, hey, you can have this license to use whenever, you know, and that way Battletoads could come up, or Cobra Triangle, or whatever you have. That would have been a really interesting concept, Again,
okay, so it was not even a year ago. It's August of last year is when it came out.
Okay.
But yeah, like obviously the timing windows aren't right, but it sucks from just this perspective of someone who loves games and like, we're interested in the business of it, but like to say we have all these classic Rare games and they don't have Donkey Kong Country.
Imagine that.
And then they say we have all these classic NES games.
Yeah.
And you don't have anything from Rare.
Yeah. Because that was also, Solar Jetman. I know a ton of people who played that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, I was just thinking about Donkey Kong Country with achievements. And how much I would have liked the snapshots of like games like that.
Yeah.
There
is, I don't know if I ever showed this to you, but there is like a series of online emulators that use achievements for NES, SNES, Genesis, Game Boy.
Don't tell me.
The problem is, I'm going to give you the caveat now because it might just spur you to do it anyways.
Yeah.
They're user defined. And so like people just make the dumbest shit as achievements.
It's like jump into the corner 2,000 times.
You know what? I'll pull it up. And you can name a game.
Okay.
And I will tell you what the achievements are for that game.
Kyle Germano commented, "Hey guys," which is a comment that shows up on the actual not event page, but like the YouTube page. So if you're watching this live, unfortunately, we also have limited room for what we can read, and I can't actually check these comments live that I'm aware of. It's really weird. I tried doing this last time, and it wasn't working. So you usually have to use the event page, which I'm not sure how it links on YouTube.
But still, hey, Kyle.
Hello, Kyle.
All right, so here are the systems that the site supports.
Okay.
We have Genesis, SNES, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, NES, and TurboGrafx.
Okay. I want to choose an NES game for an achievement.
Okay.
I want to choose Mega Man 2.
Okay.
Let's see what Mega Man 2 achievements are.
Mega Man 2 achievements are... There are 76.
Oh.
All right, so get Heatman's power, get Heatman's power on difficult. So there's that for all the Robot Masters.
Sure.
And these have gamer score assignments to them as well, by the way.
I do like that.
Arrive at Wily's castle, defeat Pico Pico Kun, defeat the Guts tank, defeat the Boo Beam trap.
Okay, so just playing through the game essentially is a lot of these.
Beat the game on difficult. Defeat each of the Robot Masters with Mega Buster only.
I do like that.
All the bosses in Wily's castle as well. Finish Wily 5 without dying and without using E-Tank, using Buster only. So you have to do the whole boss rush with no E-Tank and just Buster.
Okay, that's kind of exciting.
In Wily 4, get to the boss door using only Buster. Defeat the Robot Masters without taking damage. Defeat the Wily bosses without taking damage. Obtain your first E-Tank. Find a 1-up. Get all 3 items. Jump through a doorway. Pass the jump puzzle and Heatman stage without using item 2. Outrun all Quick Man's beams without using Time Stopper. I didn't even know you could use Time Stopper in that area. I've always done it on the fly.
Well, yeah, it makes it a lot easier, but I got to the point where, it's not difficult anymore. But, yeah.
Defeat the big fishes on Bubble Man stage without taking damage. I like the way this one's phrased. Defeat the hot dogs on Woodman stage without taking damage. Pass all the Metals moles without taking damage. Get Metal Man's hard E-Tank without dying. Get the E-Tank on and 1-up on Crash Man stage without going down. Change your stars into birds. You throw at about 200 boomerangs and flying discs.
Weird.
Yeah. Get 4 E-Tanks. Defeat Metal Man with his own weapon. So those aren't too crazy.
What's kind of fun is, like, I bet in the culmination of my lifetime of playing that game, I've gotten all those.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, maybe like not beat like all the Robot Masters with just the Mega Buster and Wily 5, but almost every one of those would be on my list. So I kind of wish I had achievements for all the things I did do as a kid.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what my gamer score would be when it comes to if this setup could quantify everything I did.
There's achievements for Goonies too.
For Goonies too?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know.
Find each one of the items. That's,
okay.
Find the hammer, find the candle, find the glasses.
Okay.
Is
there an achievement for Punch the Old Lady?
Let's see. Gather 4 bomb boxes, rescue the Goonies, free Annie, visit Konami Man after hitting him so he never refills your energy again.
No.
Find the hidden extra life in the cabin, cross the bridge while wielding boomerang and don't lose it.
Oh, that sucks.
That one's called Never Goonie Give You Up.
God. I wish the people who are in charge of naming achievements, that must be the best part of the job. It sucks when it's the achievement name is like really boring, but when you can have like a stupid game pun, that's my favorite.
Get to the cell gate room with 5 lives, full energy, all items, and Goonies. Finish the game with the smallest possible inventory.
That's tough.
Get to the gate room without a single rescued Goonie. Beat the game without losing a life. So there is not one for punching the old lady.
Whether you punch Konami, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's close enough. Okay. Achievement unlocked. The game has been running for 10 seconds. Yes. God, all I want to do is play Goonies too.
It's a game that I like, but that I don't think is good. It's one of those. It's like Earthbound for me, where it's like a game that I feel a lot of emotion about and want to like effusively praise, and then I think about the game and how it just has like massive design problems, and I have to rein it in a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. But if it weren't for Goonies, we might not have Castlevania 2. So Goonies is really what started the Metroidvania series. It had a map. It had like findable items. It had upgrades like the spring shoes. So to any of you who ever have played Symphony of the Night, pay respects to Mikey.
There are 37 urban champion achievements.
No, I would get 0 of those. That game, okay, all you do is hit A.
Yeah.
Like there's no I've played the game and wondered like what is the technique? That's actually it.
Yeah.
Hit A, there's nothing else you have to worry about. If you hit A fast enough, you will punch the guy and win. Oh, I don't like it. Okay. Oh, there was. I thought there was something else news-wise.
Well, I did want to talk to you. Did you watch any Evo this year?
I actually no. I watched a little tiny bit of it at the store, but I was working almost the entire time. And then on Sunday, I was watching something else on Netflix, so I don't think so. I actually forgot. I watched a little bit of Smash 4 and a little bit of Killer Instinct while there weren't people at the shop, but that was about it. Yeah. I actually wanted to watch it. I just never got around to it. Did you watch any?
I told myself it's interesting. I was like, I'm not interested in any of the games this year. Like, I just don't kind of care.
Yeah.
But I did pretty much watch the entire week.
Okay, good. How was Street Fighter, by the way?
Not great. Like, it's not interesting.
There's
a lot of like close matches. Like, it's a very momentum heavy game. So it's very possible to have no life left and stage a comeback, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But from a mechanical perspective, there's very little that happened that I was like, oh wow, like I did not do that like that. Yeah.
There's no Evo moment 37 or whatever.
No. I did watch the top 8 for Street Fighter on ESPN, which was really cool. That they had ESPN 2.
Yeah. People were pissed. That made me laugh.
What were they?
Well, I mean, like not like the gamers, but like people like, oh, this is a sports channel. Why are you showing?
Oh yeah. Where the poker boom happened and where the spelling bee is every year.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a really interesting selective kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the production was very good on ESPN. Like they did a good job.
That's cool.
And it wasn't like super like talking down. They explained a couple things, but if they used like a very specific term that doesn't appear in the game, they would kind of like, oh, like back up, like what does that mean? And they would do it. The one problem with the coverage is that they would go to replay, which is like a new thing this year, that they would go to replay after certain matches, and all the replay would be like the hit that knocked the person out. Oh. So you'd get like none of the setup. They're just like, all right, let's see how he did that, and then he was like, oh, he did a Shoryuken.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But they announced a lot of cool stuff. Jury is coming out for Street Fighter V in a week.
Oh, good.
And
I like her.
Tekken 7 is coming to PC, and they announced a couple of returning characters for that as well.
That's good. Speaking of Street Fighter V, real quick, did you play through story mode? Did you try story mode?
I did. Yeah, I went through it twice, actually.
Did you like it?
It was interesting, but it was interesting how they did it, but the story itself was not very interesting.
Oh yeah, no, I actually fully agree. It was I could not tell you what happened by the end of it, but I did like the cinematics and the quality of how it looked. That's like literally, and I thought it was fun. It made to me as much sense as any Street Fighter story ever has.
Yeah. It's nice to actually have like a fleshed out explanation of what's going on in the Street Fighter.
Yeah, Rashid. It was an interesting involvement with a lot of the characters in a way I didn't expect.
Yeah. The problem with something like that, though, whenever they do one of those things, is that a couple characters are just not going to be important to the story, right? Like the very nature of fighting games is like these guys are fighting for justice and these guys are fighting for evil. And then there's like these 4 people that are just like, yeah, I just want to see if I'm the strongest.
Right. Yeah. I like seeing Balrog because I love him. He's one of my favorite characters in the game. I love the way he looks. I like the way he plays. Mm-hmm. And then there's like his weird little friend in the hood. And what? Yeah, like you see him get like his really angry look after like a fight, and that's it. It's like
he used like a psychic power and like pulled a chess piece out of someone's hand, and that's all he did.
Right.
And then he walked away at the end with Balrog. They both just like, all right, Shadowloo sucks, we're out.
Yeah, basically, it was like watching Jurassic World.
Oh God.
Do you remember? Like, I'm so glad that between the 3 of us, we watched that movie, and at the very end, all of us were just like, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because I would have felt bad if 1-8 was like, that was the best thing I'd ever seen. I was just like, oh, and not that I ever want to like discount, make somebody feel bad. But all three of us were so on board at the end where we left the theater and we all had the exact same thought of what the hell happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of felt secure in that. But anyway, let's I like the story mode simply because I think it was like a fun, silly little thing. I like the presentation. I don't know what happened.
I liked the amount of characters involved that were not Street Fighter characters. Like that were, but like are not playable. Like, I thought it was really cool that all 12 dolls had to be fought at some point.
I like that you fought that cop in like Rio.
That was it's funny because he was like the Stan Lee of the game, right? Where I was like, well, who is this guy? I watched the credits at the end, and that was Combo Fiend who did his voice.
Okay, that's really funny.
That's why his name was Peter, and I was like, oh, okay.
I was wondering. I was like, why Peter? And he looked like Mike Hagar. He was hunched over and double dashing and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I just killed him with Cammy or Chun-Li or whoever it was. I don't remember, but yeah, it was silly. I enjoyed it. Okay. Street Fighter story mode, whatever. So you went through it twice. Did you do it like on the hard mode?
Yes, because you get a set amount of fight money for doing it on normal, and then you get more fight money for doing it on extra.
That's okay. That's sort of what I thought. Okay, I was making sure.
The nice thing is, and it's really because I think it took me a couple, like 2 or 3 hours to play through it on normal.
Yeah.
And then on extra, I just skipped all the cutscenes, and it took me like 25 minutes.
Significantly faster, right? Exactly. Because I did want to watch the whole thing and see what happened. And yeah. I mean, it was just.
Look, public service announcement: people, stop fucking talking during cutscenes. I'm begging you. Like, if you grew up during the PS1 era, where it transitioned away from text and you could just like leave a piece of dialogue up on the screen, like cutscenes are important, and it's not time to like laugh at stupid voice acting or whatever. Like we can do this as soon as the cutscene is over. I hate when people talk during cutscenes. I know. I always want to watch and like take in the experience of I want to know what this character says. I want to know what's happening. And afterwards, if it's dumb, let's talk about it. But like when I can pause the game, like it doesn't matter. Right.
I'm the same. I want it to be presented that I want to know, and even if somebody else doesn't care, it doesn't mean anything to them. I just still want to know, even if it's awful. I want to take that in the way the game is giving it to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But more about Evo. So you said Tekken 7 for PC with more characters.
Yep. There was a lot of King of Fighters stuff shown, some Guilty Gear stuff shown for the new games and updates respectively.
Sure.
Smash was there. Like Nintendo's not going to be like, here's the new characters.
Yeah.
Hungry Box won Melee, which was pretty exciting.
I saw the very end. That was actually kind of an exciting match because at first I was like, I hate watching like some of these people play because it's Jigglypuff off the side of the stage floating back and forth and just like, God, this isn't fun. But then because he was behind and he popped it out in the clutch and actually like slept Armada or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I didn't expect it, and it was exciting to watch the very end of it. So
I don't, you know how I feel about Smash on a competitive level.
Yeah.
But I kind of caught myself where I thought like, okay, well, out of all these 9 games, I only play Street Fighter 5. That's the only one that I still play. And so I thought like, well, I want to kind of, every Evo is kind of an opportunity for me to get excited about fighting games again.
Sure.
And I thought, why don't I kind of work my way back from the most popular on down?
Sure.
Which is funny because Tekken 7 was, I think, like the least popular one, and that's the one that I want to play the most. But Smash was right before Street Fighter, and it had 2,500 entries, and like by all metrics, it was the second most popular game at Evo.
Right.
And I thought maybe I'm gonna start playing Melee, and I thought about it, and I decided that the only thing stopping me from actually doing that is that I value my hands. Dude,
like there's nothing like that. There's nothing that uses your hands the way that game does in its fullest. I'm not going to jump into that.
And I know that people are like hardcore pure for the reason that you have GameCube controllers, adapters for Smash 4.
Mm-hmm.
I know that people are purists and they think that that's the way that game needs to be played. But there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a fight stick configuration or something that has the same amount of quickness.
So somebody actually showed one. I want to say, I don't know if it was like Hori or somebody, but they did make a fight stick that actually had a C stick or they actually might have been like C-stick buttons, essentially, as well as your attack, special, jump, and then like a 4-way joystick. And it was being presented or talked about, and I saw this online, and I was like, you know what? If you could memorize that and use this effectively, this actually might make the game even more playable on a professional level while not destroying your hands.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to see if I can find it and send it to you, but it was a really interesting thing that it might just be a better configuration. I know people want to swear up and down with, they're comfortable with this, therefore it's the best way. But if something better were to come along, I know it would require, like, you'd have to relearn certain things.
Even from like an ergonomic standpoint, isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it to keep the ligaments and tendons in your hands
Yeah, because
floating?
that game is hell. Yeah, on the fingers. Yeah, especially in that long term, man. So is Smash Brothers, though, because I do love knowing how technical the game is, and seeing the technical play does impress me. It's very much like watching Street Fighter 3 in terms of, like, I can identify the stuff that is difficult to do, and so when I get to watch somebody do it, it's very rewarding to think, holy crap, they pulled that off. With a game like Street Fighter 5, which is very sort of, like stimulus response, it's a very just sort of action effect kind of thing. It's not as interesting to me to sort of see it play out just, as a standard fighting game. It's very much like Street Fighter 2 to me. I like watching Smash Brothers Melee to a degree with interesting characters, because watching some of these characters move around the stage, it's just so different, and I can see that it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of technique. It's a lot of really impressive understanding of the mechanics and parameters that go into it.
See, I am the opposite, where I feel very much that less is more, and it drives me insane watching professional Smash play, because I don't think Fox should have to constantly be running in a circle in his corner of battlefield, waiting for like the perfect spacing to do, an air. Right?
I can agree with that. But yeah, I know it's like it comes down to like people just being flashy, which is very unnecessary largely. But I can see that too.
Like, Smash is a game that has just infinite levels of technical depth. Mm-hmm. And not a single hair of subtlety.
That's true. That's very true. Excuse me. I turned myself back on.
Yeah.
I turn myself on whenever I cough.
I do that too.
Kasumi,
I turn you on when I cough.
When you cough, I get turned on.
Yeah.
Kasumi Ninja, Tattoo Assassins, and Shadow War of Succession at EVO 2017. So, what do you think?
Never. Oh my god, it would kill Evo.
Have you ever played Battle Monsters?
I have watched video on it. I've never played Battle Monsters. But Ronnie knows that Shadow War of Succession is my #1 worst game of all time. I've never played a video game worse in my entire life.
That is #1 on the list of this is as awful as a video game can ever get?
Yes.
Okay. I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Okay. Something I also wanted to bring up was which celebrity you think has the cleanest colon?
I was gonna say AJ Slater, but I mean Mario Lopez.
AC Slater?
Yeah. No, AJ, his brother.
His brother. Yeah, his is really. They don't show it in the show very often.
Yeah,
because he's usually like.
Here's the thing: if you are a celebrity,
yeah,
and you are not in the public eye,
yeah,
you essentially cease to exist.
Yeah.
So you can't poop.
If nobody's there to see it or witness it.
Yeah, you are in celebrity suspended limbo.
Are you cold?
I don't think you know. I don't think you know to be cold.
That's fair. I was wondering if it's like a weird cryo freeze. And every time they interview you, you immediately thaw out. Did we talk about Inside?
You talked about it when you first started it, I think, or you did it in one night, didn't you?
I did it one night. Yeah, I was very tired, so okay. I couldn't remember if that had come up, but that was like the 4th of July. So, okay, okay. I'm just trying to remember anything else that I might have played or seen or experienced recently that I wanted to talk to you about. I don't think there's ever anything I've played though.
Yeah, I played Been playing a lot of Rare Replay still.
I really like the way that game is set up, man.
I do too. I've still been going through it mostly sequentially.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get bored and I'll hop around.
Sure.
In terms of 100% game completion, I am up to Killer Instinct Gold.
Okay, cool.
And in terms of like milestones / achievements, I am up to Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay. Because I've played all the way through every game. I think I'm starting Blast Core. No, there has to be something else I haven't done yet. But Blast Core was it was freezing on me. It froze several times, and so I actually haven't been able to play like more than 2 levels in because it kept freezing. So I don't know.
I had that problem with Perfect Dark Zero, but then it doesn't really run through Rare Replay.
Yeah, that's true. It is. Yeah, because those like install as like separate apps that sort of like load up. I love the unlockable system. I love getting movies, and I love getting interviews, and I love getting sneak peeks of canceled projects.
Yeah,
Sucker.
it's really thrilling.
It is very good the way that's set up. Yeah,
I just want more of the like. I know that because I have I think like 27 of the 30 games on the NES Mini in cartridge form, and the other 3 I'm pretty sure I have on a virtual console.
Yeah.
But as long as there's bells and whistles or achievements, it could be as small as achievements.
That's very, very enticing.
Just give me these. Give me more Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. Give me more Rare Replay. Give me more. You know, if
yeah, go for it.
What if there was a Chemco replay?
Whoa. Let's play. Did they do Snoopy's like?
They did. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. They had the Snoopy license.
That's weird.
But not on the Super Nintendo because then Nintendo released a Snoopy game in Japan.
Weird.
Yeah.
Shadowgate.
Yep.
Deja Vu.
Mm-hmm.
I like those kinds of games.
Yeah, I do too.
I am also very thankful that the Rare Replay had a lot of what was it? Save states. Because without that,
player assistance,
I will not get certain achievements in that game, like slalom. Some of those.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The problem is, by going through it in chronological order, that I would get to Killer Instinct and Blast Core and I would fuck up and I would hit the left trigger and I was wondering why I wasn't doing it because I got so used to rewinding.
Yeah.
That I was just pulling it as a reflex every time I did something stupid and nothing would happen.
Completely. It was a great little addition to the old ones though. Yeah. But I agree. It became a crutch eventually. Ronnie had just mentioned that he liked Grabbed by the Ghoulies, and I loved that game actually when it came out for Xbox. I was very into it.
That was a game that like I sort of heard everyone hated, and so I never bothered to play. And then I watched I don't remember what I was watching. I think it was just like a Rare Replay stream and someone was playing it and I thought like this game looks pretty good.
It's really fun. Yeah, I mean, because everything's a weapon. You just pick up shit, you just kick everything, and stuff is flying off of shelves and chairs are exploding. And like, because of how interactive the environment felt, it was kind of like this is what the bouncer was supposed to be. It was Grabbed by the Ghoulies. But yeah, I genuinely like the game. You know, I think people were mad because there wasn't like a really exciting main character that people are going to fall in love with, but it controlled well and it had great music. And it was fun to just kick the shit out of all the things.
Yeah.
Takara Replay Battle Arena Toshinden Collection.
Sure, it's got achievements.
Yeah, if it has achievements, I'll probably play. You know, that makes me sad because the Mega Man Legacy Collection, I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I feel there's a lot of missed opportunity for the achievements in the game because there's like 15 or something. And it's basically beat Mega Man's 1 through 6 and then get like golds, silvers and bronzes on like all the challenges, or get 50 challenge medals in gold or whatever, and like they're there, and it wants you to play the game. But I like abstract challenges. I like the stuff that we listed earlier, and if it was beat Mega Man 2 using only the Mega Buster, okay, that's a much more difficult endeavor because the game, you kind of can't do it until you can do it till the very, very, very end. But like Mega Man 9 and 10 had achievements that were based around the fact that games were made to be able to do those things. And the other games, they weren't really made for that. They weren't made with it in mind. So having to try to like restructure yourself to do those, I think would be a really fun achievement.
Yeah.
So, kind of a shame, missed opportunity. I hope the NX has achievements.
I do too.
I hope they give
Like
you
it's
Nintendo
weird
coins.
that like that's a thing that I want,
I
but
want it very badly.
yeah,
It's enticing, man.
it
Like
really is.
it feels good to hit a milestone of any sort, or to know that like a lot of abstract progress has paid off. You collect, 2,000 snake tails in, I don't know, fucking Red Dead Redemption, and then they give you, it bloops up, and you're like, cool.
Here's the other thing too, is that like from gamers of our age,
Mhm.
save files, things happen. Progress gets lost, and getting an achievement is something that you can point to forever as long as you have your overarching account and say,
Right.
I did that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many Xbox hard drives I went through, or if
Mhm.
it happened in 2005 or in 2025. You
Mhm.
can always go and say, like, yeah, I totally kissed 5 boys in Bully, and I got this achievement to prove
Yeah.
it.
I wish I could say, dude, check it out. I got every single stat as star on Chrono Trigger for every character in the game,
Hmm.
Like, I did that. And now I can't, you know.
Yeah,
Who
I can
believes me?
beat Don Flamenco upside down,
Hmm. And
but
now, who knows?
yeah, now I have to prove it, and I'm older, and like when the blood hits my head, it's like
Yeah.
really uncomfortable.
Yep. I had a video of me in high school showing my friend Danny. You know Danny.
Yeah.
Um, and it was weird because we were in art class, and I made the teacher bring the TV in with the VCR so I could show him the VHS that I made of me playing Ocarina of Time. And it was a VHS, me beating the water temple without the blue tunic. I was proud of that, but like, who
Yeah.
else? Nobody's gonna believe that until I show them. And so here's the video proof that I took. This is my achievement. I did that. Check it out. Yeah, and I have no idea what happened to the tape since then. It probably got recorded over, but
That's a shame.
it is a piece of shit. AJ Lopez.
Yep.
No, AJ Slater.
AJ Lopez. No, you're right.
Just some dude who works at Jiffy Lube. Yeah, because he's got the cleanest colon. Okay. Well, as my voice continues to get increasingly more uncomfortable, I actually think I'm going to end up saying, I'm gonna retire early this evening. Hour and a half is still pretty good podcast. It's like watching a good movie.
Yeah.
You know,
Or a bad movie.
that's true. A bad movie can last an hour and a half as well. Some of them do. Oh, before we go, we talked briefly yesterday, I think, about Stranger Things.
Yes.
Have you looked into that at all?
Like I said, I've seen things about it around. I have not started watching it.
It's something that I would really like to get your take on because I have one episode left, and I'm going to save it until tomorrow because I'm trying to space it out for myself because I'm liking it so much that I don't want to like just ruin it all at once and have nothing else to watch. Even though I'm going to do that tomorrow. But it's interesting because every time I start an episode of the show, I think this is pretty good, and I like it. And then I think, well, is it as good as I keep thinking that it is? And then every time the episode progresses, I'm like, no, it's way better than I think it is. So it's really interesting that every time, it's kind of like I don't want to go to the gym, but by the time I get to the gym, I'm like, I love being here.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I start off the episode, and I'm not like, I like it, but I'm not like thrilled. And then something happens, and by the end, I'm just like, I'm sucked in so hard. It's really interesting. But I like it. It takes place in the 80s. It's got a good soundtrack. It's just a really fun sci-fi show.
Okay.
So I want to know what you think.
I think it's dumb. I think you're dumb.
Well, yeah, it is. I am. That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, I guess our friendship is done.
Yep.
Michael.
Now you know the truth.
Yeah, well, it's been good being your friend, but now we're not friends. So
yeah.
Oh well.
Under false pretenses.
Yep. I think that's it.
Yep.
I think it's the end. It's the end of you.
The end. Oh, you're killing me?
I think I'm going to kill you now.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I'm also lower energy when I'm sick as well too, so it's somewhat difficult for me to super articulate. But it's a good conversation this evening.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure talking with you.
Indeed.
And we'll get together next week, probably Wednesday as our normal time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go buy some groceries.
Oh,
I'm gonna go to Hastings since they're not gonna exist much longer.
that's gonna be done. Yeah.
I'm curious. You posted a picture of Pokemon Crystal with no label on it.
Yeah.
That is also how my copy of Pokemon Crystal is. Did they just not have good labels?
I don't know, because I don't think mine ever came off, but I see a lot of those games where the labels totally did,
There's
and very cleanly too.
here's the weird part, and I don't. It's probably not related, but um, I use like a couple auction sites for games, and every time a Pokemon game pops up that's in one of those, like the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance era that uses the special colored carts,
Mhm.
someone in the comments for the auction would always ask, "If I win, will you take the label off for me?"
Um,
And it just makes me want to like make sure that those people don't win.
yeah, because you're gonna deface a game. That's weird. I've never. Is there like some sort of subcult of people who like they want to randomize their games and they want to pick up a blank cartridge and they don't know whether it's Donkey Kong
That's kind of
1, 2, or 3?
exciting. Like I like the idea.
I did that when I was younger for some games. I regret it because it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But and now my copy of Ninja Gaiden 2, or my old copy of Ninja Gaiden 2, just simply it's a messy pulled off label with a bunch of sticky there that still says John because I had to put like something. I don't know. It's dumb. It was a dumb thing. I like the idea of randomization, but I don't know. That
Yeah.
could get very awful really quickly.
Yeah.
Weird. I don't know. I'll look at my copy of Crystal and see if the label's still like decent because maybe they did use like a different glue or something. Because yeah, like it's as clean and smooth as it gets. Maybe the label just like flaked right off.
Yep.
I don't know. Okay. So thank you guys for watching. You can hit us up at garetro.com. You can go to facebook.com/gafans for our community page, or /Gamers Anonymous, as well as /the Cyberzone podcast.
Cyberzone podcast.
No, the Cyberzone podcast. You can check us out on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter at GARetro, and you can find us on Yelp and Google if you want to say hi to us in a different way.
Yeah, in a polite review type fashion.
Yeah, if you want to be professional. Not a lot of reviews that are left are professional. Some are just sort of like, I love those dudes, or like, what's always funny to me is it's very polarizing. It's very seldom like, I had, I don't know if it happened on our store, but I think I was reading like on the video game owner's website, like where we talk about a bunch of these dudes. Some guy came in, he was like, I don't like the name of your store, and he left them a 1 star, and it's like, that sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
but to give somebody a completely opposite review because of something trivial, and he was just probably being a dick, but I think some people do say, well, my experience wasn't perfect, so 1 out of 5. And it's like, oh, that like really sucks because what wasn't good about it? Well, they didn't hand me a bag. I don't know, like it's something really weird that could have been resolved easily, but it wasn't. If you walk into a store and somebody calls you like dickhead, sure, leave them a 1 star review because that's not right. But if your experience is kind of like, well, it could have been better, leaving a 1 star review is a really interesting thing to do. So
Yeah, people treat it like it's a thumbs up, thumbs down system.
yeah, it's really extreme. So I don't know, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll be feeling better next time. It would suck if I didn't feel better by next week. But yeah, I'll feel better by then, and I will sound a little bit more enthusiastic and less dead.
Yep. And
Also,
I'll be the same, hopefully.
Yeah, Michael Radon will still be here.
Cho Aniki.
That's it. The most important game on the PlayStation 1. Weird.
I learned about that game through John Milholland.
That's funny.
I was in Lubbock for a DDR tournament, and he was like, we got to play Super Big Brother. And I was like, what the hell is Super Big Brother? And
I wonder if he played it with me at one point, because I found out about it from the guys at Replay. They were like, have you played Super Big Brother? And I was like, no. And so they said, I'm going to sell you this game for $20 and you're going to go home and play it. And I was like, okay. And so it happened, and history was made.
yeah.
So I'm glad for that. Okay, I'm gonna go try to get some rest and actually play some Setsuna.
Do it.
And I'll try to have a more thorough discussion about it next week. Let you know if it sucks dick or not.
Yeah. Big dicks, low prices, 2 stars.
That's right. Is that a bad thing? Big dicks and low prices, but it's not enough for me.
Well, maybe this person wants to be ripped off by people who have small penises.
I want to pay more and I want the dicks to be smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, this place. Okay, that's fair.
From just like a business, someone who's like reviewing it as a business owner, like they can't possibly be making a profit.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly. Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you in the future.
Boy.
Bye.